Well, good morning to you, Peak Squad. It may not be morning, it may be afternoon or evening. I don't know. Hi, Emily Reeves here. I'm your host of this series called State of the Build, where I check in with our favorite YouTubers on builds that we love. This episode's going to be rad because we have Brandon from Muscle Rod Shop, and you guys have suggested to have him on this series, and I'm really excited that we finally got our schedules to align. We are going to talk about their insane dually Cuda. This car is nutso, and I'm so stoked to get a little bit of background on this build and maybe even the plans to come for it. Let's check in with Brandon. What's up, Brandon? Dude, thanks so much for making the time to toss some videos back and forth with me this morning. I am so stoked, and I'm sure that the viewership feels the same way because they've requested to have you on this series quite a bit. This car that we're going to talk about today is so insane. I mean, who even thought, let's put some dually axles under a Cuda to begin with? I mean, that is just wild. What was the source of the inspiration for this build?
Hey Emily, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. So yeah, the Cuda, a little bit about this. The inspiration actually came from a guy named Matt Carricker. He owns the channel Demolition Ranch on YouTube, and he also has Off the Ranch, which is the channel this is being built on his side. Originally, he came in here wanting a just four-wheel, not dually. We didn't originally have that planned. Cuda on a diesel chassis. And it just so happens that, you know, that was his plan when he came in. And we had a Cuda sitting out in the backyard of our shop, right next to a first-gen Dodge chassis. It was weird. That wasn't set up like that. That's just the way it was. And right then we knew, oh man, this is probably meant to be. We should probably do this. And that's what we came up with right there. It was a pretty good idea, I'd say. So the dually part actually came about because the chassis that he brought in after we said, yeah, let's go ahead and do this, was a 3500 chassis. So it was already a dually. And I believe it was my old man that was saying, man, maybe we should keep the duals on this and just make it 10 times better and way, way, way cooler. And that's how we ended up with that situation there. So this car is actually sponsored by BF Goodrich. So those tires are sponsored. So instead of 4, why not get 6?
Of course, this Cuda was a brainchild of Matt's. He's crazy in all the right ways. Oh my gosh. So this chassis and this power plant, I'm sure, is going to be insane. Do we have a ton of boost pumping through this motor? I'm fairly certain that it's going to see a lot of action from Matt. He is not one to have something built and then not use it. I'm really excited to see this thing actually hit the, not road, but off-road. It's gonna be badass, holy moly. So tell us about the power plant.
Yeah, Emily, well, this thing sure is not just a show queen. It will be painted all green and, you know, those colors. But it's actually on-road use and off-road, of course. I mean, you can't build this and not go off-road. But in the back, we will have a receiver back here, one that kind of drops down. And that will be for pulling a boat, hopefully like a 40-footer or something like that. Something really, really, really big. And it is built for it. I mean, that's a giant AAM axle, and that's out of a 2015 Dodge Ram 3500. So this whole thing's set up to pull. And then we have the drivetrain, and this drivetrain has your transfer case. It has a 48 RE manual valve body transmission, and then the 12 valve Cummins diesel. So this motor is a 12 valve Cummins. It was built by Holden Brothers Diesel in Boerne, Texas. And it's got an 80 mil turbo from Smeding Diesel, and also a 64 mil turbo sitting down in there. And a shot from the side, you can see there's the 64, and then here's the 80 up here. this little pipe right here will go into an intercooler into the front that we have not made yet, because this was just put together to get to Cletus and Cars, but we're done with that now, so we can move on. It's also got a hot rod P-pump. We're looking to get about 800 to 1,000 horsepower out of this motor, and probably trying to make around 70 to 80 pounds of boost by the time it's all done. It should be pretty interesting. It's also got this crazy machine work, and this is all done by King Speed. The front cover was done also. It's got a lot of nice billet work on it. The oil pan and transmission pan was also done by King Speed. So plenty of power to do whatever he wants to do with it. Pull a big boat, a tug of war with a 5-ton, or just, you know, daily drive around town.
Can you imagine being at a boat ramp and seeing Matt launch a boat with his dually 4-wheel drive Cuda? Crazy. Or being on the trails, like stuck in your Jeep, and you get pulled out by a Cuda. What? This car's gonna be so insane. And the piping for the compound turbo setup looks insane. The Holden Bros did a killer job on that. Holy moly. Okay, so you mentioned that it's gonna get a paint job. Where are we going with the exterior on this car as far as the appearance mods? You built some custom back fenders for it. Tell us about those.
Well, I'll tell you what, Emily, the paint job on this has to be vibrant. It's got to be standing out there. I mean, right now it looks good. It looks good in black. I like it, and a lot of people do. But in the end, it needs to be bright. So we're going to end up going with some sort of green, because a lot of the 71 Cudas, which that's what this is, you know, I think probably the most popular one is lime green, and it had a black billboard back here on the back. Let me run you through a color that's close to what we might do here. So this is a House of Colors color, and it's actually made here. We just kind of mix some colors together, but you can see the golds and the greens in here. It just looks really good. Now imagine that color, and it does change that much on that car. I mean, just, maybe right here, yeah. It just works. It works really good. So, for example, where this line is here, that's where it'll go black. The whole side of the fender will have a billboard on it. Now, on these Cudas, you would have the body green, and then this whole thing black here, and then maybe a Hemi writing there. But in this case, we'll probably do like a big C for the Cummins, or, you know, something else in there. I don't really know yet what we're gonna do. As far as this fender goes, the fender is all made out of sheet metal. So it starts out as flat sheets of metal like this. So you can see it just starts out flat as can be. That's heavy steel, and that sheet, that's actually aluminum, I think. Yeah. And then it gets formed by English wheel and plenishing hammers and everything else to make these fenders. For example, right here is how wide a factory Cuda is. And that's how much we needed to come out and cover these 40-inch BF Goodrich tires. This thing is actually a bolt-on fender, just like a factory, you know, dually would be bolt-on. So when I open the door, you can see the width. This is factory, and a factory line there. And then that's how much further we went out. This is just a bead. I like beads. Not important, but this car, for example, is a Daytona, okay? So this thing's been widened out like 6 or 7 inches altogether, but it's welded together. So the width is actually welded into the door. And you can see all that nose and everything is built pretty much the same way that this fender was built. We did incorporate the factory door handle into it, and then, you know, when you look at it, it all works. works out pretty good. Now, as far as interior goes, that's completely up to the customer. He can do whatever he wants, but I think tan, black, anything would work just fine against that green.
I cannot wait to see the paint on that car and the fender, like with the Cummins logo. That's gonna be so rad. Okay, so this is going to trigger the purists. How much hacking did you have to do to that body to make it fit on the truck chassis? I would imagine that that would have been quite a job to do.
So much hacking. Completely destroyed it. Except it still looks like that. Honestly, not too much. I mean, you would think that it would take a lot to do this. Most people, I think, would basically just take a Cuda body and weld it straight onto a 4x4 frame. I couldn't do that, you know. If we were gonna do the car, it had to be done right. So this thing actually has body mounts like a truck. The floor's been changed out, the trunk floor. There is no frame in the front anymore. Cudas are unibody cars. They have, their frame is welded to the body of the car. In this case, we didn't need any of that. So we took it out, and it did kind of irritate some people thinking we were destroying a car. But the fact is, this could be put back together factory any day, any day. The front frame section of this car, the entire engine compartment, the walls on the engine compartment, everything got repurposed for another car, which is this Cuda being put together right now. So this car had a front end collision real bad and just ruined everything, even the firewall. That's why there's a new firewall in here. He didn't have a front frame section, so he wasn't using his, so he gave it to him. So because of that car, which is a complete car you can drive, this car is going to be on the road. Makes a lot of sense when you look at it that way. This Cuda now has body mounts there, back there, and in the very rear. All this, that's a body mount, and one on the other side. So it's got 6 body mounts on the body itself that bolt straight up to the frame. So at any given time, we can take this body off of this chassis just like a truck. And the way I think of it, trust me, I love factory cars. I would never do anything to a very rare car. But in this case, it's not. And this was actually a 72. So, you know, it is what it is. And we made it into a 71. That's why it's got that crazy grille on it and 4 headlights. So it was well worth it, well worth it. If you were at a car show for Cudas and there was 200 Cudas laying around at a car show, they're all pretty cars, and this thing rolled in, everybody would probably scatter to it. Trying to keep as much originality as possible. That's why we're going with all the factory chrome on this thing. We're not modifying too much. Yeah, dually fenders, but not too much. All the chrome around the windshield, factory style paint job, factory style interior. Most of it will be factory style except for the giant diesel motor in it, but it's all looking good.
Brandon, thank you so much for taking the time today to toss some videos back and forth with me. I'm so excited to see Matt's car come together. Truck, car, whatever it is. I really kind of want to see him drive over some cars with that thing. I bet he probably will. That's going to be so rad. You guys are doing a fantastic job on it, and it's going to be really gnarly. I'm sure that everyone's already subbed to your YouTube channel, but if not, you guys check them out. You can see the full build there on their channel, and lots of adventures when Matt gets it back, I'm sure. Huge thanks to you, Brandon. Y'all have an awesome day.
Emily, thank you so much for inviting me onto your channel to share the projects we got going on here, and I'm down to come on anytime. We got a lot of crazy projects coming up pretty soon, so whenever you want, I'm here.
As always, huge appreciation for you guys sending us suggestions for folks you want to have on this series. We love doing this series, and by we, I mean I. Peak is obviously the carrier and had this idea for this series, but following through with it and getting to chat with all of these awesome YouTubers and content creators and builders is really an honor. So thank y'all so much for watching and subscribing and commenting, and we will see y'all next time.